8th Salt Lake City Council formal meeting. We're continuing to hold our meetings remotely due to the declarations of emergency related to the pandemic and earthquake. While we hold our meetings remotely, we're happy to have you connecting with us online or by phone. Thank you for joining us. To begin with, we'll take a moment of silence as we recite the Pledge of Allegiance. When we're done, I'll go ahead and turn the audio and visual back on. So please join me in saying the Pledge of Allegiance to yourselves at home. Okay, I just went through the whole speech for the next item without realizing my camera and audio was off. So that was the inordinate delay. While conducting our meetings electronically is different from our in-person norm, this is still an open and public meeting. I will cover the guidelines under our general comment section of our agenda for those of you who wish to make a comment tonight. That brings us to agenda item A4, recognition of City Council member Chris Wharton for his service to the Salt Lake City Council as the 2020 Council Chair. The only thing saying that to yourself once is saying it to yourself twice, but I will now turn the time over to Council Vice Chair Andrew Johnston. Thank you.
I'd like to have you do it again, Chris, just for fun. But I know you don't want to do that. So I want to thank you, Council Chair. And Chris, as you conclude your last official meeting as our Council Chair, we have an opportunity to honor you for your countless contributions to the city and to the Council over this past year. I'm sure you wish that your year as Chair had been a bit more exciting, and we don't always control what the years bring, but we all know and have felt that 2020 has been an incredibly eventful and significant year. From one emergency and critical conversation to the next, you and all who served our city during this unprecedented time have been on the constant move. Just listing the events of the past 12 months can evoke a lot of emotions. Of course, there are natural disasters, the strength of a windstorm that took out more than 3,000 city trees, and the unsettling earthquakes in March. We also have had the honor of being in office during the critical national and community conversations on equity and policing, and a series of protests and rallies about race and equality. And of course, not to mention all of this during the ongoing worldwide pandemic. The global conversation is a debate of whether 2020 was all negative or whether we can commit to finding the positive. For Salt Lake City, our residents, employees, and elected officials, in the face of those events, we all stayed with it. We have seen the strength of many wonderful and skilled department directors, mayor, and administrative staff who have been at the front lines of these events. Here we are today in one piece with a little duct tape and bubble gum where needed. Chris, you led us through some strenuous times, gavel in hand. Do you have your gavel actually? And for that, we are grateful. Your leadership style was a significant element to our successes. For example, there's your humor, your willingness to balance all sides of an issue, to be responsive, and to be patient with online public meetings so that the public can voice their strong opinions on such important topics. You always strive to provide a forum for all voices to be heard. Like all leaders, you may have hoped to achieve more on your agenda. But as you have said, and these are your immortal words, quote, I'll tell you what we're not doing, nothing. We're not doing nothing. end quote. The list of what the council has worked on this year under your chairmanship is a fine list for any year and something for us all to be especially proud of. Even in the midst of what a typical year brings, budget meetings, hours of valuable public comment, legislative policies, and land use, here are some of the highlights. Promoting transparency and public engagement as we reinvented ourselves for virtual council meetings. Prioritizing time on the agenda so that we could respond to and consider the messages from protests, rallies, public input about racial equality, and police shootings. In an amazingly short time, council leadership prioritized these items on the agenda so that we could consider ordinance amendments, review policies, and shift the budget to new priorities. We all, council and administration, spent a great deal of time on the new pandemic federal funding, which allowed us to continue and increase important programs within our community. With this federal CARES funding, we have created affordable housing work through housing stability programs such as rent and mortgage assistance for people and businesses affected by the pandemic, $1 million for small business emergency loan program, arts program grants, expanding the downtown ambassador program into the Rio Grande neighborhood and North Temple neighborhood for homeless support, new services for cleanup and waste removal for homeless encampment services and needs of the community. In addition to that new funding, we also helped establish a new Commission on Racial Equity and Policing with the mayor. Through budget changes, we set aside $1.67 million for community investment priorities in underserved neighborhoods and communities of color. Also launched the police budget audit as part of the zero-based budgeting exercise soon to be undertaken. The council supported budget changes to make the most of the opportunity to accelerate the airport redevelopment project, saving millions of dollars in the process. There was youth program expansions, master planning for the foothill trails, and several new opportunities for transportation funding. These are all accomplishments the council and the administration can be proud of. We know that the mayor and her staff work hard on all the items before they come to our office. And many of us have seen firsthand the chair of the council becomes incredibly involved in the scheduling, prioritizing, weighing of options and direction for each item that gets onto a council agenda. We all take that work seriously, and you provided the guidance necessary to make sure our legislative process works. Chris, on behalf of the council, we would like to present you with the beginnings of a custom-made gavel created from the wood of a city maple tree that fell during the windstorm. And I'm going back and forth to see if we have it. We have commissioned Utah artist Paul Russell to carve a gavel, which reminds us of the work you have done this year as chair and your humor and excitement when you got to use it. This gavel can be seen as an extension of your leadership. The maple is a symbol of strength, endurance, and the flexibility to bend and flow. It also represents our growth during a challenging 2020 year. Now, on your screen, Chris, you're going to see the rendering of a gavel. I would like you to look at me, though, first, because I think this is probably closer representation to the actual thing. You can see that. That's real wood and is one-of-a-kind drawing.
I love the detail. My God, it's exquisite.
Now, if you can see that, I will tell you that's the good news. The delayed news is that due to the time needed to appropriately draw the maple wood, it is being worked on by artist Paul Russell. Therefore, in the interim, we present you a rough sketch of your gavel to come. And so with that, we thank you.
Thank you so much. That is so thoughtful. Thank you.
Would you like to say any words, Mr. Chair?
I would. First of all, the worst part is that we can't all be there in person tonight. Like, I just feel really it just feels like such a weird thing to not be there with all of you in person. So that's what I miss most, but I will happily accept the gift in spite of the circumstances. And I did just want to say a few words. When you all chose me to serve as chair, the tasks that I thought I was signing up for in early January of 2020 looked very different. As it turned out, 2020 was one of the single most difficult years in our city's history. We faced the disasters of a pandemic, an earthquake with weeks of aftershocks, Utah's first inland hurricane. I think we were up to a total of 15 or 16 emergency declarations in one year. We faced the challenges of having to balance economic shutdowns with public health, civil unrest with overdue police reform, political differences with collaboration and compromise. We saw the opening of a world-class airport, the largest public works project in Utah's history, and the groundbreaking of a new water reclamation facility, which, although somewhat less exciting, is certainly no less essential for the future of our city. We secured the support of the U.S. Olympic Committee to host another Winter Games. We say goodbye to Jerry Sloan. James, I want you to know I included that jazz reference in there for you. You know, I'm not a big sports ball guy. We saw a new city flag above City Hall and a beautiful Black Lives Matter mural at Washington Square. In a bitterly divided presidential year, we hosted a very civil, COVID-safe debate between Mike Pence and Vice President Kamala Harris. We had a census competition with Provo. We commemorated the 150th anniversary of the first woman to vote in United States history, cast by Sarah Young in 1870 in the Salt Lake City municipal elections. And we saw a reimagined version of the 30th Utah Pride Parade. The council had our longest meeting at almost 10 hours. We had our shortest meeting at just under 10 minutes, and our first entirely virtual meeting without an anchor location. We also convened as the most diverse council Salt Lake City has seen so far. In between all of that, we've worked with the administration to reach landmark accomplishments. We temporarily rezoned the Sugar House DI location to create a temporary shelter. We created one of the first emergency pandemic relief funds for small businesses in the entire country. We passed a budget without having to cut services or lay off city employees. We funded the Racial Equity and Policing Commission. We made generational strides in police transparency and accountability, banning the use of military equipment, investing in state-of-the-art body cam technology, implementing a body-worn camera ordinance, strengthening the social worker co-responder program, expanding the police civilian review board's oversight, pending tonight's vote, and replacing the Civil Service Commission with a more streamlined hearing officer position, also pending tonight's vote. We advanced our state legislative priorities and defended local control through the general legislative session and multiple special sessions. And we reached a compromise that will allow the city to speak with one voice during the upcoming legislative session. We adopted a cemetery master plan, passed a vacant boarded building ordinance, and approved a loan for the 255 State Street project. We've continued to support new home creation and laid the groundwork for additional advancements in affordable housing across the city and in our central city area in particular. We established the foundation for a year-round public market at the State Fair Park. And tonight we'll end the 3-year-long scooter apocalypse with a dockless shared mobility ordinance. And at our next meeting, we'll pass a comprehensive notice ordinance for public utility providers. Also, Anna had a baby, the mayor adopted a puppy, and next week I'm getting my first tattoo to mark this extraordinary year. Amy, you're invited to join me since I know you're a veteran. 2020 has been the longest 12 months of my life. It has been gut-wrenching, exhausting, and lonely. I gained more than a few gray hairs on my head, but my heart is full. Thank you always to my loving husband, Chris J., and my family for supporting me. Thank you to our city council staff for making each one of us shine every day, even when the days are dark. Thank you always to my undaunted constituent liaison, Austin. Thank you to Cindy Gus Jensen for the late night calls, the less common early morning calls, the middle of the day calls, and your ability to move so gracefully and intuitively between the role of political advisor, personal therapist, and Salt Lake City's Rememberer in Chief, which is a most venerable title that I have just created for you. Thank you, Mayor Mendenhall, for the opportunity to work so closely with you during your first year in office. Thank you, Andrew, for serving with me as vice chair and for being the quiet, level head to my not quiet, occasionally detached head. Thank you to my council colleagues for giving me the honor of your trust and support. I love Salt Lake City and I love each of you.
Well done, Mr. Chair. I'll
Thank
turn the
you.
time back over to you since I don't think I actually have the time, but I'll do it anyway for fun.
Thank you. I will accept the time. That brings us to part B of our public hearing, or excuse me, part B of our public hearings, which we don't have any scheduled tonight. So that takes us to section C, potential action items. Our first item is a resolution that would adopt the Department of Public Utilities 2020 City Water Conservation Plan. I will look for a motion.
Mr. Chair, I move that the council adopt the resolution that adopts the 2020 Salt Lake City Water Conservation Plan.
Second.
I have a motion from Councilmember Rogers and a second from Councilmember Fowler. Is there any discussion to this item? Seeing none, we will go ahead and proceed to a roll call vote. Councilmember Rogers.
Yes.
Councilmember Johnston.
Yes. Yes.
Councilmember Mono.
Yes.
Councilmember Dugan.
Yes.
Councilmember Fowler.
Yes. Yes.
And I'm a yes as well. That passes unanimously with one council member absent on paternity leave. That brings us to item C2, which is an ordinance that would close a portion of 800 North Street adjacent to I-15 and Warm Springs Road. I'll look for a motion.
Mr. Chair, I'd like to make a motion.
Go ahead.
It'd be motion 1 to adopt with a deed restriction. Do I have to read the whole deed?
I
Think so.
Katie, I don't think so, but let's just verify.
I would recommend you can just adopt motion 1. You don't have to read all of it if you don't want to. You can just adopt motion 1, or you can read it.
I adopt motion 1, or I move that we adopt motion 1, adopt with a deed restriction.
Thank you, Katie, and thank you, Councilmember Dugan. Is there a second?
Second.
I have a motion from Councilmember Dugan and a second from Councilmember Fowler. Is there any discussion to this item?
Yes, Mr. Chair.
Go ahead, Councilmember Rogers.
I'm going to recuse myself from this. I've been accused of owning a billboard company, which I absolutely do not own. Any ownership in any sign company, any billboard structure, anything to do with billboards, I have 0% ownership. Just want to make that perfectly clear, but I'm going to recuse myself from this just to not only save and protect the city, but also my family as well.
Thank you, Councilmember Rogers. Any other discussion to this item? Then we will proceed to a roll call vote. Councilmember Rogers has recused himself. Councilmember Johnston?
Yes.
Councilmember Mono?
Yes.
Councilmember Dugan?
Yes.
Councilmember Fowler?
Yes. Yes.
And I am a yes as well. That passes unanimously with Councilmember Rogers recusing himself and Councilmember Valdemoros not present, being on maternity leave. We will go ahead and move to agenda item number 3, which is the dockless shared an ordinance that would regulate the use of electric scooters and other dockless shared mobility devices in Salt Lake City. I'll look for a motion.
Mr. Chair,
Yes, Councilmember Mono.
I move that the council adopt the ordinance.
Second.
Thank you. I have a motion from Councilmember Mono and a second from Councilmember Dugan. Is there any discussion to this item? Seeing none, we'll go ahead and proceed to a roll call vote. Councilmember Rogers,
Yes.
Councilmember Johnston,
Yes.
Councilmember Mono,
Yes.
Councilmember Dugan,
Yes.
Councilmember Fowler,
Yes.
and I'm a yes as well. That motion passes unanimously with one council member absent. Moving on to item C4, which is an ordinance creating an appeal hearing officer system by repealing the Civil Service Commission and in creating an employee appeals board, or excuse me, Civil Service Commission and employee appeals board. I'll look for a motion.
Mr. Chair, I move that the council adopt ordinances repealing City Code 2.16, amending the entirety of City Code 2.24, and enacting Chapter 2.98, competitive merit-based recruitment and promotion processes in the fire department and the police department.
Second.
I have a motion from Councilmember Johnston and a second from Councilmember Fowler. Is there any discussion to this? Seeing none, we'll proceed to a roll call vote. Councilmember Rogers,
Yes.
Johnson,
Yes.
Mono,
Yes.
Dugan,
Yes.
Fowler,
Yes.
and I'm a yes as well. That passes unanimously with one council member absent. We're now at item C5 on the agenda, which is budget amendment number 5 for the fiscal year 2020 to 2021. I'll look for a motion.
Mr. Chair, it's Cindy. May I
Hi.
give you some new information?
Sure.
The administration is aware of 3 or 4 budget amendment items that need to be processed in a timely manner. And the best way we could think of to do that is to, tonight, if you don't mind, set a hearing date for a briefing date and a hearing date for January for the 5th and the 12th. And that way we can go ahead and get the advertising going, and it'll save about 3 weeks. You'll be receiving the transmittal in the next several days. So I hope that works out for you. It is listed here. It looks like B1B. Is that right, Ben? Yes, that's the one. So that's in addition to what other, if you would consider that in addition to everything else you're doing, that would be very helpful.
Mr. Chair,
Yes, Councilmember Fowler.
I would move that the council adopt an ordinance amending the fiscal year 2020-2021 final budget of Salt Lake City, including the employment staffing document as requested by the administration. I further move that the council schedule a budget opening January 5th and January 12th. This only says the 5th, but I heard Cindy mention the 12th. For time-sensitive budget items, the administration will provide to the council and recorder's office no later than December 17th.
Mr. Chair, there is currently no formal meeting scheduled on January 12th, so it would need to be January 19th.
That's what
Councilmember
I
Fowler.
meant to say.
Okay, thank you.
I'll amend my motion by moving that we have the public hearing dates on January 5th and January 19th.
I will second again.
Thank you. I have a motion from Councilmember Fowler and a second from Councilmember Johnson. Is there any discussion to this motion? I don't see any hands up, so we'll go ahead and roll call it. Councilmember Rogers,
Yes.
Johnson,
Yes.
Mono,
Yes.
Dugan,
Yes.
Fowler,
Yes.
and And I'm a yes as well. That passes unanimously with one council member absent. We will now move to the comment section of our agenda. Are there any questions for the mayor? Mayor, thank you for being here. All right, Mayor, I have a question, which is where on earth did you find this? If you can't see, it's appears to be both a trophy and liquor container from the International Cocktail Competition.
From what year?
1973, which is a great year. And it has what appears to be, I think it looks like Jared Harris space on the top, but it could also be Robert Redford. So
It can be whoever you want it to be, Chris.
I mean,
I just-
it's a great start, those two. So
I'm sorry that it is no longer filled with Jim Beam, as the sticker on the bottom indicates it once was. But I found it at Lily Bell in Sugar House. Please go do all of your holiday shopping there with Lisa. 55 cents for every dollar you spend at a local business stays in our economy. Thanks for giving me a chance to plug.
thank you, Mayor. That's where I got my paper mache hippo, which is you'll see in the top left corner of my screen. Because I mean, who doesn't need one of those? Any other questions to the mayor? Okay, we'll go ahead.
Mr. Chair,
Yes.
I don't have a question for the mayor, but I would like to just take a quick moment of personal privilege, if I may.
Go right ahead.
I just want to say you've done a great job during this year. Certainly unprecedented to have fully virtual. We haven't, I don't think that I have seen you since, like in person, since we got back from Washington, D.C., and that was in March. And so you've done a great job at trying to wrangle all 6 of us while managing your own sanity and your law practice. I think people sometimes forget that this is not a full-time job, and there you have an amazing law practice and your own personal relationships in life, while trying to deal with all of the things that have been thrown at us. And you've done a great job at still trying to create the camaraderie and the community that we have within a council, all virtually. So I didn't say it earlier, is kind of putting my thoughts together, but you've done an excellent job, and I thank you for your leadership and your friendship. And here's to your chairship in 2020.
Thank you, Councilmember Fowler. I appreciate that very much. And I appreciate your friendship as well. I also forgot to say earlier in the meeting that staff and I arranged for a little memento present for all of you. It is also not ready yet, typical 2020. So I hope to have that at the first meeting in January, but you all just have to wait until then. Okay, let's go ahead and move forward to the public comment section of our agenda. This is the point. We're accepting public comments through both WebEx, and for those of you whose only option is to call in, staff will be monitoring a separate telephone line to include any callers into the into the meeting. Over the past month, we have continued to refine how we are handling our public comment, so I'll go over the process for tonight. First of all, the City Council has always had rules of decorum that support legitimate government objectives of having an orderly, efficient meeting that moves through the agenda and gives everyone the opportunity to voice their opinions. We have had these rules of decorum when we're meeting in person, and it's important that we continue that engagement and provide an orderly, non-disruptive, efficient, and safe opportunity for all people to comment, even when we're meeting virtually. We created this forum because your comments are important to us, and we want to include your feedback and achieve great things for our city. In person, we had the added benefit of being able to see each person as they made their comments, which helped us know our constituents and engage with them meaningfully. As we continue to meet electronically, we still want to provide a space for people to feel comfortable and safe to participate. Our rules of decorum extend from the moment that you arrive into our virtual meeting. To help facilitate our comment period, please be respectful. Avoid yelling or making racial slurs, obscene or defamatory remarks. The council respects all points of view, and we welcome new insights. However, using foul language and personal attacks make the public comment forum uncivil and intimidating for others. In addition to this being a public forum, this meeting is also being broadcast on television and the internet. Because of that, the council has decided to more strictly enforce the use of profanity. If you feel that you need to use profanity to express your point, you're welcome to email council members or call our comment line at 801-535-7654. Based on that, we've modified our rules a bit, and this will be considered your advance warning against the use of profanity. If someone uses profanity, we will mute your microphone and you may forfeit your turn to finish your comments. In addition, just as we would ask for your name in our public hearings, please be prepared to provide a first and last name prior to speaking in the public comment period. To limit disruption and ensure the efficient operation of our meeting, the first and last name given cannot include a message or violate our rules of decorum. If your registered name doesn't meet this requirement, then our staff will use the chat feature to gather information from you. If you're unable to give a first and last name as the meeting requires, our staff is happy to direct you to another forum because your message is still important to us. Amanda Lau from our staff is helping moderate this meeting. She'll be messaging with the attendees to coordinate. Please monitor the chat screen for information and/or feel free to message our staff with any questions. Again, her name is Amanda Lau. Amanda will take your first and last name. If you're unable to give a first and last name that does not include a message or decorum, again, she will communicate with you to obtain that information. Robert Nutzman will be calling the names of those who wish to comment and unmuting your lines. Once we open the public comment, Robert will announce 3 names at a time so that people can have some notice and be prepared to speak. If you do not wish to speak, please message our staff and let them know, or when the host states your name, please state that you're just here to listen. When it's your turn to speak, the meeting host will unmute your line. Please state your name and the 2-minute timer will begin. At the 2-minute mark, the host will announce time and your microphone will be muted. Of course, if you're unable to complete your full comment within the available time, please feel free to mail the Salt Lake City Council at P.O. Box 145-476, Salt Lake City, Utah, 84114-5476. Or you can email us at council.comments@slcgov.com. Or you can call us at our 24-hour phone line, 801-535-7654. Robert, go ahead and announce the first 3 individuals who are in the queue to speak.
Good evening, Council Chair. First, we have Pamela Starley, followed by Shane Curtis, and then Cindy Cromer. Pamela, you're unmuted.
Many of us neighbors have been discussing a couple of development projects for a few weeks, and we were disillusioned and frustrated about the developers in transitional zones. In the coming year, we want to ask the City Council to make modifications to zoning allowances such as parking and roof height and other things that impact areas. It sounds as if the master plan itself has to be changed. Plus, it seems that many of us think no exceptions for things should be granted, such as things based on scores or points that enable a developer to exceed limits. We want you to be stricter. It seems like it should be a given that any new development provide for its own parking by creating enough spaces to allow for its residents. That should be a part of the building project. No structure should come into existence without addressing that problem, any more than a building should arise without enough bathrooms. We have some ideas on how to make this happen, how to define some new changes, and we want you to consider them. We want to avoid what the Planning Commission said a few days ago, that once a project gets to us, nearly nothing can be changed. Okay, so we want to work on changing things now, beforehand. We want you to be open to doing that, and we have some ideas as to how. We realize that changes and stricter policies will be unpopular to developers, but we think our interests outweigh theirs. Please be ready with open minds to hear some master plan ideas and to begin working on them as soon as possible. Thank you.
Thank you, Pamela.
Next, we have Shane Curtis, followed by Cindy Cromer, and then Ann Charles. Shane, you're unmuted.
Hi, guys. First of all, I'd like to say in Irish, Sláinte, which is like cheers, congrats on all your elections and re-elections. Oh, and hi, Aaron. Cool to see you tonight. I haven't seen everyone since all this COVID craziness. Hey, so as far as the flea block, I was going to say, I mean, honestly, how often do we get a chance like this in modernity to make an artistic statement, a city design statement, a fashion statement? An 1857 statement that Manhattan made, the park's still one of the dopest things about the boroughs. Your city council will be immortalized. I mean, no Trump supporters coming at you. Immortalized as the ones with the balls to make such a decisive move for the future of my gorgeous city, a beautiful park. I've been blessed to live in the two most gorgeous cities in the Union, Salt Lake and Honolulu, and this adds to our legacy. You guys could like commission art, like a 4 or 5 story metal like cauldron that's seen for miles or something, or maybe something a little smaller like a gigantic metal equal sign or some kind of acceptance wordplay, something about equality, maybe gigantic hands holding a premature baby, a place to mourn all Utahns' passings. We're doubling the skyline in 5 years. Population explosion is happening with a young, educated workforce. If anything, it'll spur more density, dissipating these hideous no-street engagement-ass parking lots. A new park will expedite development of all these stains. I mean, what a statement you guys could make. Not just for Civil Rights Movement Part 2, but just a statement for our beautiful city with, I mean, a city block of gorgeousness. So thanks for sharing the mic.
Thank you for your comments.
Council Chair, next we have Cindy Cromer, followed by Ann Charles, and then Georgie Corkery. Cindy, you are unmuted.
Thank you. You have my comments in an email that I sent you late this afternoon. Last week at your work session on housing, the word equity came up over and over again. Most of us think we know what it means. It's not hard to spell or pronounce, but making it happen is a huge challenge. I thought about my role as a landlord and my opportunities for equitable transactions with tenants. I am one person dealing with rental properties, and I am confronted with issues of equity constantly. Equity, or the lack of it, can affect decisions that I make about applications, maintenance, refunds, deposits, access to amenities, delinquent rent, and obviously my own social interactions with tenants. I've just taken you on a short trip through the multidisciplinary life of a landlord: bookkeeping, project management, finance, law, and psychology. Equity sounds uncontroversial, especially on the liberal island of Salt Lake City. It is anything but easy to accomplish on a scale of one person and one tenant. You are proposing to address equity in housing on a citywide basis, contrary to over a century and a half of discrimination and lack of equity in Salt Lake alone. You need to construct the safety net for housing first to avoid making a bad situation worse. If there is anything we've learned this year, it is that things can always get worse. They have. The frightening aspect of the pursuit of equity is its potential for unintended consequences. The potential for unintended consequences greatest when we venture somewhere where we have never been before. And we have never had equity in housing. Please focus on the safety net first. Your aspirations for greater equity in housing are very worthy, but you cannot achieve them without a safety net for those people who currently experience inequities associated with the basic need for housing. And I want to wish you and your amazing staff the very best for the rest of this ridiculous year. And I hope that the coming year will be less bad for all of us. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Cindy.
Council Chair, next we have Ann Charles, followed by Georgie Corkery, and then Emily Allworth. And you are unmuted.
Thanks. First, just congrats, Chris, on your gavel. That's a really good present, you guys. That's incredible. That's super cute. And the present that Mayor Mendenhall gave you as well was really good. So just congrats on that. I had a couple of things that I just wanted to vocalize. One is last week I talked about the Raise Up SLC fund and how I couldn't find a way to access like an application to receive funds for people who might need to. I reached out to my councilman and I still wasn't able to find where someone would apply for those funds. I find it super concerning. I did donate money and now I don't know where it's going or how people can get that. I think that's super important because then I am losing faith in the money I'm giving to you, which I assume is going to people, but I don't really know that if I can't see that. So I think that's definitely something that I see across the board is just increased transparency would really help with the confidence people would have in the work you're doing. It sounds like it's really good, but then if we don't have the proof, there's a total lack of faith that can come in with that. And then another point is just in the accessibility of like your online platform. One example that I just saw today was there was an Instagram post about an arborist position that became available. And then the link they had given in that didn't direct you to the application or the posting. These are really simple things that you guys could just tweak and make it a lot easier for people to get involved and access these resources or jobs and all that. So thank you.
Thank you for your comments. Council staff, can we make sure and get contact information so that we can provide that information? Because I do remember.
Right, yes.
Yeah, thank you. And then I just want to let you know that we did have a discussion after your comments last week, and we're working on making updates to the website to try to make it more easier access and all that. So thanks for your comments.
Council Chair, next we have Georgie Corkery, and then Emily Allworth, and followed by Shane Brooks. Georgie, you are unmuted.
Awesome. Hi. And you did say my last name right. It's Corkery. I'm here to comment on the Utah Inland Port. I work at Roots Charter High School. This school is directly downwind from where the port is currently undergoing construction that is not being done in a sustainable fashion by any standard, despite claims from the Utah Inland Port Authority that this will be the world's first green port. I'm going to repeat facts on air pollution that have been shared before, repeat them to protect the kids I work with who are already struggling from numerous disadvantages in life and don't need the port to be another. And I repeat them because I don't know if Salt Lake City is listening. Research done by the University of Utah found that our air pollution is directly linked to lower test scores, poor school performance, and increased absences. Other studies show that air pollution in Utah causes an average of 6,000 premature deaths annually and decreases our life expectancy by 1 to 3.5 years. And now there are numerous studies demonstrating that air pollution increases the spread and severity of COVID-19. These are not all the grave facts of air pollution, but they should be enough to stop the development of what would essentially be the biggest carbon bomb our city has seen, the Utah Inland Port. At very least, these facts should be enough for Salt Lake to conduct a human health impact assessment on the port. which the Stop the Polluting Port Coalition will be asking for once we complete a community-funded emission inventory and air quality modeling. I stand with that coalition because their actions reflect that they care about my students. And I appreciate all the hard work that you all have done this year, through this crazy year. And I hope that you include this human health impact assessment in your future work. Thank you.
Thank you, Georgie.
Next, we have Emily Allworth, followed by Shane Brooks, and then George Chapman. Emily, you're unmuted.
Hi there. I would also like to congratulate Chris and everyone else for a incredible year on City Council, working with us and making sure that people's comments are heard. I wanted to offer up a suggestion moving into the new year. I think that for a lot of people, this has been a great way of getting involved. The WebEx platform has worked really well for a lot of people, and it's been accessible not only to people who have computers, but also people who have phones, and could be made more accessible, but is a lot easier for working people in Salt Lake who oftentimes don't have the space in their schedule to go to physical places to have long meetings and enjoy the flexibility from home. I hope you guys are all enjoying the flexibility as well, and hopefully looking forward, it's possible to incorporate this post-COVID into planning accessibility when it comes to community outreach and engagement. Obviously, with climate change, we want to have less emissions from cars, and instead of having people driving to meetings or limited by public transportation, I think having more accessible formats like this are a really great way forward. And I hope you consider keeping or amending your plans when you go back and continuing to keep it accessible. Thank you.
Thank you.
Next, we have Shane Brooks, followed by George Chapman, and then Gina Thane. Shane, you're unmuted.
Hi, good evening. I just wanted to comment on two things. I wanted to continue to comment, as I'm sure you guys have been hearing every week. I wasn't in the last few meetings. I was down with COVID myself, but I'm sure you've been hearing about the rezoning of the murals for police brutality and the continued pressure on you guys to not rezone those, as they are a memorial for the victims and their families, a place for them to mourn and grieve, and they're becoming a place for the community to enjoy as well. Also, I wanted to comment, as you said earlier, Chris, in your statements about how you guys, last year, you were able to pop up an emergency shelter at the Sugar House DI for the unsheltered. But yet that's not happening this winter. Instead, they're being pushed around the city and harassed by the police officers, and their items are being taken this winter. Why can we not pop one up again? Why can we not help them have somewhere warm to stay instead of taking their belongings? Like, I work for MCTLU, an organization, and I'm going out, giving them new stuff, and then it's being taken from them less than a week later by the police. And this is donated stuff. So those are my comments for today.
Thank you for your comments.
Next, we have George Chapman, followed by Gina Thane. George, you are unmuted.
Okay, thank you, Andrew, for your efforts on making the Fleet Block a park. You're right. Any further action should have an option to make it a park. I disagree that the chances are slim for 2 regional parks. Mayor, you should not be setting up the west side against Ballpark and Central Ninth and downtown area for the next park. I know you didn't intend that, but it sounded like it. So why isn't the city asking companies in Utah to contribute for a park? Kennecott took over the proposed Rose Canyon Park about 10 years ago, I think, and they should welcome a goodwill generating proposal like that. On the ILA, you should, excuse me, UTA, should be providing more service for this city's money. It was going to implement the same service, promised to implement the same service if taxes were increased, and they did. So why isn't UTA providing the better service they promised? They also need to provide better service on the west side and implement a $1 fare with the million the city has in the bank, and stop the zigzag buses on the west side that are like book runs. It's an insult to the west side. And the idea of a $35 rider subsidy for the VIA service proposal is a really questionable idea. Track station at 650 South Andrew is right. UTA and property owners should pay for it. UTA got 187 million from the feds. UTA has the money. And Chris, you've been heroic in your patience during this year's meetings. Really impressive. And Andrew, thank you for your blog on District 2 website. Love it. And thank you for, as always, for listening. That's my comment.
Thank you, George.
Council Chair, next we have Gina Thane. Gina, you are unmuted.
I would like to say thank you for letting us have a voice. And my comments are regarding the fleet block. As someone that has a beloved person up on that wall, I still stand firm about keeping that there as a constant reminder of what shouldn't happen to families, and to bring the community together. Keep that as that healing spot. We can never bring those people back. Not one of them, and every single one of them leave a legacy of something behind. A legacy represents hearts that someone has touched, and every single person on that wall has touched somebody's heart, whether it has been their family, a friend, a loved one. They have left a legacy behind. And I can't think of any better way than to continue that legacy and to remind our city the things that we need to keep going forward with, and that is not to take any lives. I don't know what else to say other than I just really hope that everybody can respect one another on this matter, and it seems like the community is invested just as much as every family member there. And I know that we can make this a great place. Thank you.
Thank you for your comments.
Council Chair, we don't have any more commenters.
Well, thank you to everybody who called in and commented tonight. I appreciate that. We will move on now to.
Sorry, Mr. Chair, really quickly, before you move on from the meeting, staff has been in communication with the attorney's office behind the scenes, and the motion sheet that you guys approved earlier for budget amendment number 5 did not reflect your straw polls about support for positions in the attorney's and recorder's office. And so Ben is correcting that motion sheet for the record to reflect the straw polls that you guys took with the correct amount. So we just wanted to state for the record, curious, that that's changing a little bit from what you guys saw on the screen earlier. It's just a new version. So
Do we need to do a motion to reconsider so that we can include that?
that's probably a good question for Katie to answer. We have in the past treated it as a sort of Scrivener's error when the number on a motion sheet may not have adequately reflected what you guys actually went through and straw polled. So I could see either way. You know, we've done it probably both ways in the past. Go ahead, Katie. Sorry, I see you just.
What do you want us to do? How do we fix this?
You know, it's a significant enough amount that's a change to the budget amendment. It probably is not a bad idea for the record if you reconsider and adopt it with those council initiated FTEs.
And are we prepared with that so that I don't want to rush me making a motion since I made the first motion, a motion to reconsider if we're not prepared with the new motion to make sure we get it right.
I'm going to ask Ben and see if he's got that ready. Well, popping on though.
In the meantime, oh, sorry, go ahead, Katie.
I was just going to say, if you didn't have the exact number, you could make a motion to reconsider and add those additional straw polled FTEs with, the caveat that the numbers will be added.
Why don't we do this? We have to vote to revote. So why don't we take care of that, and then maybe if it's not done by that time, then we can use the language that Katie suggested, but maybe we will be. So at this point, I will entertain a motion if anybody wants to reconsider their vote.
Mr. Chair, I would move that we reconsider agenda item number, somebody should tell me what number that is. 5.
5.
For budget amendment number 5 at this time. That's my motion.
Council members, having voted on the prevailing side, Councilmember Fowler is moving to reconsider that. Is there a second?
Second.
I heard a dual second from Councilmember Johnston and Councilmember Dugan, I think. So we'll go ahead and call for a vote on reconsidering the motion. Councilmember Rogers.
Yes.
Johnson.
Yes.
Mono.
Yes.
Dugan.
Yes.
Fowler.
Yes.
And I'm a yes as well. That passes unanimously with one council member absent. We are now back at agenda item number 5, which is the, I'm getting a number here, which is the budget amendment. And Ben is informing me that the correct number, he's not able to put it up on his screen. The correct number is 426,482. I'll say it one more time in case somebody wants to jot it down really quick. 4,200.
And I think, let's see, we're working on putting up a revised motion sheet on the screen. I guess Ben was having technical problems with WebEx, of course, right at this moment. So, oh, there we go. Thank you, Amanda. There it is.
Oh, good.
And I think that because the motion was reconsidered, I think the council has to then adopt both 1A and 1B again. Is that right, Katie?
Yes.
Okay, thanks.
Okay, so I'll look for a motion.
Mr. Chair,
Go ahead, Councilmember Fowler.
I would renew my motion regarding budget amendment number 5, where I'd move that the council adopt an ordinance amending the 2020-2021 final budget, including employment staffing document as requested by the administration. I further move that the council schedule a budget opening to set the public hearing dates on January 5th and January 19th for time-sensitive budget items. The administration will provide to the council and recorder's office no later than December 17th. I would note, I think that's everything.
Okay, I have a motion from Councilmember Fowler. Is there a second?
Second.
Go with Dan.
Okay. I have a motion from Councilmember Fowler and a second from Councilmember Dugan. Is there any discussion to this item? Seeing none, we'll proceed to a roll call vote. Councilmember Rogers.
Yes.
Johnston.
Yes.
Mono.
Yes.
Dugan.
Yes.
Fowler.
Yes.
And I'm a yes as well. That passes unanimously with one council member absent on paternity leave. Council members. Yeah, what? Okay. Council members, we are at agenda item E1, which is a motion to ratify the determination of the council that we will continue to meet remotely without an anchor location under HB 5002. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Second.
I have a motion from Councilmember Fowler and a second from Councilmember Johnston. Is there any discussion of this item? Seeing none, we'll go ahead and roll call it. Councilmember Rogers.
Yes.
Johnston.
Yes.
Mono.
Yes.
Dugan.
Yes.
Fowler.
Yes.
And I'm a yes as well. That passes unanimously with one absence. We are now at item E3, which is regarding a resolution that would extend the mayor's September 8th, 2020 proclamation declaring a local emergency relating to the windstorm. I'll look for motion.
So moved. Do I need to say the dates? I think I do. I forgot. I move that the council adopt a resolution extending a proclamation declaring a local emergency relating to the COVID-19 coronavirus pandemic until February 3rd, 2021.
Is there a second?
Is this the
Windstorm.
windstorm?
Mm-hmm.
Oh, I'm sorry. I had my COVID resolution motion sheet up on my other computer to try.
Oh, in due time, but we're on the windstorm right now. If you'd like to make a similar motion.
Mr. Chair, I'll move the council adopt a resolution extending a proclamation declaring a local emergency relating to the windstorm until February 3rd, 2021.
Second.
I have a motion from Councilmember Johnston and a second from Councilmember Dugan. Is there any discussion to this? Seeing none, we'll go ahead and roll call it. Councilmember Rogers?
Yes.
Johnston?
Yes.
Mono?
Yes.
Dugan?
Yes, but Mono made them second.
Oh, he did. I'm sorry. Councilmember Mono, thank you for seconding that. Councilmember Johnston, I take back my thank you. Councilmember Dugan?
Yes.
And Councilmember Fowler?
Yes.
Okay, that passes unanimously with one council member absent on paternity leave. We are at item E4 on our agenda, which is a resolution that would extend the mayor's March 18th proclamation declaring a local emergency relating to a magnitude 5.7 earthquake. Wait a minute, I'm sorry. The reason why you're all off is because I'm calling these in the wrong order. I will go back to the COVID-19 one, but let's call for the earthquake one first. Sorry, everyone.
So wait, which one are we on, Chris? Are we doing the earthquake or the COVID?
We are doing the earthquake at this point. My mistake. Sorry, everyone.
Mr. Chair, I move that the council adopt a resolution extending a proclamation declaring a local emergency relating to a magnitude 5.7 earthquake until February 3rd, 2021.
Second.
I have a motion from Councilmember Rogers, a second from Councilmember Mono. Is there any discussion to this? Seeing none, we'll proceed to a roll call vote. Councilmember Rogers?
Yes.
Johnston?
Yes.
Mono?
Yes.
Dugan?
Yes.
Fowler?
Yes.
And I'm a yes as well. That passes unanimously with one council member absent. We'll go ahead and go back to item E2, which is a resolution that would extend the mayor's March 10th proclamation declaring a local emergency relating to COVID-19.
Mr. Chair, I move the council adopt a resolution extending the proclamation declaring a local emergency relating to the COVID-19 coronavirus pandemic until February 3rd, 2021.
Second.
Thank you. I have a motion from Councilmember Rogers, a second from Councilmember Fowler. Is there any discussion to this item? Seeing none, we'll go ahead and roll call it. Councilmember Rogers?
Yes.
Johnston?
Yes.
Mono?
Yes.
Dugan?
Yes.
Fowler?
Yes.
And I'm a yes as well. That passes unanimously with one council member absent. Okay. Don't worry, everyone. I'm about to get fired anyway from this job. So we're moving on.
Mr. Chair, I'm sorry. I just think this goes to show how much we have been dealing with when we get emergency proclamations confused.
Yes, there's just so many to choose from. Okay, we are now at our unfinished business item on the agenda. Agenda item F1 is a joint mayor council resolution establishing electrified transportation goals. I'll look for a motion.
Mr. Chair, I move that the council adopt the joint resolution establishing electrified transportation goals.
Second.
Was that Dugan? Okay, I have a motion from Councilmember Fowler and a second from Councilmember Dugan. Is there any discussion to this item? Seeing none, then I will proceed to a roll call vote. Councilmember Rogers?
Yes.
Johnston?
Yes.
Mono?
Yes.
Dugan?
Yes.
Fowler?
Yes.
And I'm a yes as well. That passes unanimously. We are at agenda item F2, which is an ordinance that changes the police civilian, makes changes to the police civilian review board. I'll look for a motion.
Mr. Chair, I move the council adopt the ordinance changes and legislative intents listed in attachment 1.
Second.
I have a motion from Councilmember Johnston and a second from Councilmember Fowler. Is there any discussion to this? Seeing none, we'll go ahead and proceed to a roll call vote. Councilmember Rogers?
Yes.
Councilmember Johnston?
Yes.
Councilmember Milano?
Yes.
Councilmember Dugan?
Yes.
Councilmember Fowler?
Yes.
And I'm a yes as well. That passes unanimously with one absence. Council members, that brings us to portion G of our agenda, which is the consent portion. I will look for a motion.
Mr. Chair, I move we approve the consent agenda.
Thank you. Just for old time's sake, Councilmember Johnston. Oh, I mean Rogers. Is there a second?
Second.
Okay. I heard a second from an indistinguishable council member from the West Side. Thank you for the motion, Councilmember Rogers. Thank you for the second, Councilmember Johnston. Is there any discussion to this item? Then sorry.
I said I'm the tall one.
Ah, that's right. Okay. Yes. Well, since I haven't seen you since March, so I can't verify that. Oh wait, no, I have. Never mind. Okay. I have a motion from Councilmember Rogers, second from Councilmember Johnston. There's no discussion to this item. We'll proceed to a roll call vote. Councilmember Rogers.
Yes.
Councilmember Johnston.
Yes.
Councilmember Mono.
Yes.
Councilmember Dugan.
Yes.
Councilmember Fowler.
Yes.
And I'm a yes as well. That passes unanimously with one abstention. Council members, that brings us to the end of our agenda, and our last meeting of the year will stand adjourned. Thank you all very much and happy holidays.